Welcome to my YouTube channel, Midnight Horror. Here you'll experience haunting stories, hidden secrets, and eerie encounters like never before. I'm here to guide you through these dark realms where nightmares come to life. If you enjoy suspense, fear, and uncovering the darkest tales, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video from Midnight Horror. Prepare yourself, and let's dive into chilling moments at midnight together. My family lives in a small, charming house in a peaceful suburban neighborhood. Our home is nestled among green trees, creating a comfortable and nature-friendly living space. The house is built in a classic style, with red brick walls and dark gray roof tiles. The garden in front of our house is always carefully tended by my wife, Anna, with various flowers blooming all year round. I am Michael, a software engineer working for a large tech company in the city. My job is quite busy, but I always try to spend time with my family, especially on weekends. Anna is a literature teacher at a nearby high school. She loves teaching and always finds ways to inspire her students through classic literary works. We have a 10-year-old son named David. David is an energetic, intelligent, and very curious boy. He loves exploring new things and often spends his free time learning about nature and science. David has a favorite blue bicycle and frequently rides it around the neighborhood with his friends. In addition, our family has a very special four-legged member, a golden retriever named Max. Max is a gentle, friendly, and very loyal dog. He is always a great companion for David in his little adventures around the house. In the mornings, Anna and I would often enjoy a cup of coffee together in the small garden, talking about work and life. David was always excited to go to school, ready for a new day with interesting lessons. In the evenings, the whole family would gather around the dining table, sharing stories from the day and watching our favorite family movies together. On weekends, we often had short picnics or visited David's grandmother Sarah, who lived in a nearby countryside. Grandma Sarah was a kind-hearted woman who always loved and took care of her grandchildren. Afternoons at her house were filled with laughter and delicious meals she cooked. Our family always valued traditional values and togetherness. Although life wasn't always easy, we always stood by each other, supporting and encouraging one another. The simple, peaceful moments in our daily lives were what made us feel happy and cherish every moment together. However, everything started to change since we found that strange box. The peaceful days gradually disappeared, replaced by strange occurrences and haunting dreams. But no matter what difficulties we faced, my family remained united, overcoming every challenge together to find peace for our beloved home again. I was driving in the slow lane on the A12 eastbound, heading out of Riverdale toward the Sierra Nevada. It was a serene summer night, and I was waiting for the dawn. When I took the Main Street exit, it was still dark, so I drove around aimlessly, awaiting the first light. The initial nervousness faded, replaced by a calm determination. I knew exactly what I needed to do. As the first rays of the sun lit up the rooftops, I pulled into my driveway and turned off the engine. I unlocked the garage, grabbed a shovel and a wheelbarrow, and headed to the backyard. I had meticulously planned everything, choosing a spot in the yard. The ground was dry, so I watered the grass where I intended to dig. Birds chirped, but no one was around. It was peaceful and still, just as I had hoped. Once the water had soaked in, I began to dig. I cut out clumps of grass to form a square and set them aside on the lawn. I dug deeper, placing the soil in the wheelbarrow. As I was working, I heard a car approach. I stopped and stood still. It was just the newspaper delivery person. Once he passed, I continued digging until I hit the harder subsoil. I returned to my car and retrieved a wrapped metal box, placing it at the bottom of the hole. The birds had stopped singing. I filled the hole with soil, replaced the grass clumps, and tamped them down. until there were no visible traces of my work. It had taken less than 15 minutes. I went inside, had breakfast, and watched the spot where I had buried the box. The birds resumed singing, and a neighbor retrieved his morning paper. Everything was normal. Let me start from the beginning. My son had begged for a metal detector. He and a friend scanned the yard, finding only nails and junk. His enthusiasm waned, and he used it less. I suggested we try the beach, hoping to find lost jewelry. We found only bottle caps and similar items. On the way home, I suggested we detour through the local park. Did you know your great-grandparents had a farm here where the park is now? We could search for something hidden. Underground, I said. My son nodded, intrigued. Only a few fruit trees and the house's foundation remained of Willowbrook, my family's old estate. It had an almost mythical status in our family stories. The metal detector beeped a few times, finding a tin can, a horseshoe, and nails. But then we got a stronger signal. I started digging with a garden spade. After a bit, I hit something hard. We unearthed an iron lid, old and dirty, with a pattern and some letters. Beneath it was a hollow space made of bricks. Inside, with the help of my son's phone flashlight, we found a metal box. It was about the size of a shoebox and weighed a few pounds. "Open it, Dad. What's inside?" my son asked eagerly. The lid was stuck, so we took it home to open it. We cleaned the iron lid, revealing grapevine patterns and the letters HWVP in ornate script. The box itself was plain and rough. After some effort, the lid loosened. My son leaned over as I revealed the contents. "What the heck?" he said, disappointed. Instead of treasure, the box contained a clay statuette, several smaller clay figures, and bone fragments. The statuette looked like a crude Roman figure, and the clay figures resembled small gnomes. The bone fragments had markings. My son lost interest but liked the iron lid, displaying it proudly in his room. I, however, felt uneasy about the box and its contents. An impulse to discard it was strong, but something held me back. I hid it in a drawer under winter clothes, hoping it would be forgotten. Looking back, the oddities began before we dug near the park. We've lived in our house for years, familiar with the neighborhood. We got to know the locals, especially other dog owners. One day, a new face appeared, a man in his 70s, very talkative and friendly, who seemed to know a lot about my family. He knew my grandparents, my mom, uncle, and their cousins. We talked until my dog grew impatient. A few days later, we crossed paths again while I was running. He mentioned walking to the old Willowbrook estate, surprising me with his knowledge of my family's history. But I shrugged it off. A few nights after hiding the box, our dog began acting strangely. He usually barked at wildlife, but now he just growled at the window. We saw nothing outside. This happened a few nights in a row. One night, after an evening shift, I sat in my armchair when the dog growled. I turned off the lights and looked out. As my eyes adjusted, I thought I saw something move. But when I focused, it vanished. I thought it was just my eyes playing tricks. That night I had intense dreams. In one, I was on the steps of a cathedral, facing a chaotic crowd. I held the box, and the crowd fell silent, seeking guidance. I told them to go to war. They obeyed, marching away. I woke feeling strange and fell asleep again, dreaming of walking through a dense forest near Crystal Falls. I found a secluded village and met an elderly woman who shook her head at me. I realized I was holding the box. I woke up startled. The box consumed my thoughts. I struggled at work, forgetting meetings and barely understanding conversations. My boss noticed, and I took sick leave. At night, I watched the creature outside the window. There seemed to be several now. It was planned for my wife to visit friends on the coast for 2 weeks. After some persuasion, I got the whole family, including the dog, to go. I needed to be alone. The dreams and thoughts of the box were overwhelming. I decided to take it to our cabin on Falcon Island. Arriving at the cabin, I hid the box in a kitchen drawer. Exhausted, I went to bed early, locking doors and windows, which I had never done before. I checked the box. It was still there. I slept and dreamed of the talkative man. He spoke to me, saying something about choosing the right path. I woke at dawn, pulled up the blinds, and saw a face with black eyes staring at me. It disappeared instantly. In the kitchen, the clay figures were arranged on the stove. I searched the house, finding no one. The box felt lighter. Someone or something had been in the house. I needed help but couldn't explain this to my wife or friends. The police seemed out of the question. I decided to seek advice from a church. I packed the box and drove to the nearest one. At the church, I asked to speak with a priest. An elderly woman directed me to Father Thomas. I explained my situation and he hesitantly asked to see the box. When I opened it, he recoiled in horror, telling me to close it immediately. He made some calls and then tried to engage in small talk. It was clear he was waiting for instructions. After an hour, an elderly man in a wheelchair arrived, accompanied by a young woman who looked like security. "Show me what you found," he said, his gaze sharp and intense. He examined the box and its contents, asking me to recount the entire story. He listened attentively, asking few questions. It felt good to share the story. "Good," he said. "Do you have any questions?" "Yes, what is this? What can make clay figures summon apparitions and move on their own? And how can I be done with this?" "The clay figures are condensed evil like energy, indestructible. Destroying the box would release the evil. The bones are from an evil person, the runes a curse. The creatures are spirits or demons affecting you mentally. The clay figures didn't move on their own. You took them out in your sleep. The man you saw is the guardian, likely a family member passing the responsibility to you. You are now the guardian chosen by your ancestors. It's a trust, not a burden." He gave instructions to take the box to a location where it could be properly hidden. I drove to a hardware store, bought supplies, and sealed the box in an aluminum container. I headed to the airport, worried about security, but was met by a man who guided me past it. We flew to a small airstrip near the old man's estate. His assistant gave me keys to a rental car and said, "The old man thinks you're handling things well." Months have passed since I buried the box. Life is returning to normal. The strange man has appeared once more in a dream, thanking me. Visiting my mother's cousin Monica, I confirmed the guardian's identity in old photos. His name was Henry, and he had passed away in the 70s. And now, the responsibility lies with me.